Heads up guys, the world's largest online retailer has an offer for you. How would you like to earn $2 a month for doing basically nothing? Sounds good, right? Well, all you have to do is let Amazon spy on your phone. Yeah, is this the worst case of corporate espionage ever? In this video, we dive into Amazon's bizarre and shady initiative and look at some other examples of corporate espionage over the years. First, we have to address the $2 a month elephant in the room. Amazon has launched something called the Amazon Shopper Panel program. It's an opt-in program that you can only join via invitation. And you'll have to download the app onto your smartphone. There's a lot you can do in this app to provide metrics to Amazon. Sharing your receipts from other retailers and completing surveys are two examples. But the most controversial one is enabling ad verification. With ad verification on, Amazon will be able to see what ads you've been seeing, when you saw them, and even the timestamp of when that was served to you. This includes Amazon's own ads as well as ads from third parties. The idea is that by seeing all this data, Amazon will be able to better tailor the ads to your preferences and desires. That ought to make ads more useful to you, and then you'll buy more stuff on Amazon, which is good for them. So how does this actually all work? What's Amazon doing to protect the data they collect from participants? How can you be sure that Amazon is only collecting what they say they collect? All the company has to offer in response to these questions is "Trust us, bro." They could argue that since users have to opt into the program, they'd imply that they're okay with whatever Amazon does. But that's not how things work, and it's only an opt-in program for now. Now, this ad verification program of theirs comes amid concerns about other data snooping. Just this month, Amazon got into some trouble with its telehealth platform, Amazon Clinic. No, really, that's a thing that Amazon is trying to do. The platform is only rolling out to 32 US states to start and will offer patients the ability to get remote consultations for 20 common conditions, including allergies, acne, and dandruff. All users have to do is fill out a questionnaire, upload it, and leave it to Amazon to find them a physician. But do you really want to give Amazon this kind of information? Sure, Amazon Clinic will be bound by the regulations of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, but that only covers information that is exchanged between a patient and a healthcare provider. Anything that comes before that is fair game, and that includes the questionnaire you provide or any other details you include in your health profile. Even this is a smaller story though. Amazon has failed to reassure people of the privacy and safety of its Alexa device lineup. These are devices that you put in your actual home and that literally listen to you all day long, waiting for you to summon them. What happens with those commands? What else is Alexa listening to? One of the world's biggest smart home platforms doesn't have satisfactory answers to those questions. Tech companies' hunger for our data is really getting out of hand. Next, let's turn to something that might be a little more cathartic. Companies like Amazon have a lot of tools to spy on their customers, but they do occasionally spy on each other too. When the corporate world perches in its own weight class, the stories can be incredible. Not necessarily right or fair, but incredible nonetheless. When companies engage in corporate espionage, they're usually after one of two major things: trade secrets or data. If their competition is making something that's taking the market by storm, stealing the secrets to that product or service would allow the company to replicate it. Data, meanwhile, just gives them a picture of how well their competitor is doing on the market, and that data can be crunched to figure out their market strategy. We're going to take a look at a few stories from the past which companies engaged in corporate espionage. These are, of course, the times when the companies were caught. There could be spying happening in the offices of your favorite corporations, and it'll be decades before you hear anything about it, if you ever hear about it at all. We'll start with Stephen Louis Davis op against Gillette. When we think of who the operators of a corporate espionage scheme would be, we often think of a company's own employees. Maybe someone who works at the company gets offered a massive payday to start leaking the tea, or maybe someone gets themselves hired at the company for the purpose of spying. You might not think too much of a company's third-party contractors, and that was the mistake made by Gillette in 1997. Stephen Louis Davis was a subcontractor from Washington, Iowa. He was hired to oversee the process control engineering for Wright Industries, another third party that was designing a brand new shaving system for Gillette. The company was also creating the tool that would be used to manufacture that system. Davis stole technical drawings related to that shaving system and was probably intending to sell them, but they were caught in the act. When Davis was tried for his actions, he conceded that he caused $1.5 million in damages to Gillette. He explained that the reason he did this was because he was annoyed with his working conditions and he wanted to get back at his supervisor. Alas, he was stopped in his tracks before he could do anything with his stolen intellectual property, and he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. That was a lot better than what we would have faced, which was decades in prison and over $1 million in fines. Next, we have the case of Avery Dennison Corp. and Four Pillars Enterprises. What do you mean you've never heard of the world-famous Avery Dennison Corp. Corp. They're massively popular. We're kidding. These are two companies that work in very niche industries. Avery Dennison is an American manufacturer of adhesive labels, and Four Pillars had no need for a partnership when they could just have an insider in the company give them all of Avery Dennison's trade secrets, and they were able to keep this operation going from 1989 to 1997, almost a decade. They were only exposed when the Four Pillars employee sought a job at Avery Dennison, and during the interview, knocked over the tea. An FBI investigation blew the whole case wide open. Across a variety of lawsuits, Avery was awarded $40 million in damages. But was the enterprise worth it for Four Pillars? Well, it's estimated that the company inflicted a loss of $30 to $50 million to Avery, while they themselves only paid $150,000 a year to their spy over the course of 8 years. Sometimes paying a massive penalty is worth it for the benefits of breaking the law. In a sense, Four Pillars was simply paying the cost of doing business. They still have the trade secrets, so this was a net win for them. We'll now move on to the 2002 case of the United States and Lange. The defense industry is one of the most sensitive industries in any country. Few things are as devastating to a country's national security as the leaking of their military secrets. Now, the United States has one of the best funded and technologically advanced militaries in the world, so they're naturally a frequent target of trade secret theft. This is just one of those stories. At the heart of this story is the Replacement Aircraft Parts Corporation, or RAPCO. Their name tells you everything you need to know, really. And the company invests years of work and mountains of cash to design and get approval for their parts. That approval won't come without tons of testing. The trade secrets that were targeted in this case related to a brake assembly, and while we don't know how much it costs to design the whole thing, just testing the dynamometer can cost around $75,000. With all this in mind, it was bold of RAPCO employee Matthew Lange to try and sell the information required to create and get approvals for brake assemblies like RAPCO's. He offered RAPCO's competition basically everything, from completed specifications to engineering diagrams to testing data. We don't know what he thought would happen, but one of the competitors reported him to the FBI. Lange was lucky to get just 30 months in prison, since he'd basically run afoul of the country's military-industrial complex. Our final story for today is Coca-Cola's secret formula. Despite the fact that Coke prints its ingredients list on every can of Coke, the secret formula to Coca-Cola has long been a thing of myth. And much like you'd crave a Coke on a hot summer's day, Pepsi craved their formula so they could improve their clearly inferior drink. In 2006, Joya Williams was Coke's administrative assistant to the global head of marketing. She had access to Coke's mythical formula, with detailed and confidential information on Coke's work in progress. It occurred to her that she could make a big buck from selling this info to a certain Pepsi, but she was under a non-disclosure agreement, so she thought to sell the info through her friends Edmund Dehaney and Ibrahim Dimson. But you see, just because Pepsi makes bad soda doesn't mean they're bad people. They knew that it would be wrong to accept this cache of vital information. It would also be illegal, of course. Instead of taking what was offered, Pepsi notified the Coca-Cola Company, who then alerted the FBI. Dehaney and Dimson were sentenced to 2 and 5 years in prison, respectively, while Joya herself got 8 years. What the world didn't get, of course, was a Pepsi that could actually compete with its red and white competitor. This was a case that did a lot for Pepsi's optics at the time. Too bad they lost it all when they did that ill-advised Kylie Jenner ad. That's it for today's video. Let us know in the comments section below what you think of Amazon's ad verification, Clinic, and Alexa services. But before you do, don't leave without liking, sharing, or subscribing. If you do, we'll know.